Hi, I'm Theron Skurlock. I'm General Manager of Artagon Marketplace, Orlando. Artagon's on North International Drive. We have created a space for 165 local artisans to come and make their goods and, most importantly, sell their goods to the Orlando community, either local or tourists. And now let's head inside to meet one of our artists, and I'll introduce you to their work.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Lynn Looker. I'm an artist at Artagon in Orlando. I'm at B6G, Looker Art. It took a lot to figure that out because my last name's Looker. What I do mainly is encaustic painting. I love to paint in all different kinds of mediums, but I love the encaustic. It's an ancient art form that is making a resurgence, and I was lucky enough to be introduced to it about 8 years ago by another artist named Linda Spencer in Mount Dora. What it is in pure beeswax with Damar resin and pigmentation. And it comes in chunks and looks like crayons, and it can be applied with hot tools. It can be melted in pans and applied with brushes. I do it more painterly, a little different than most, because I do use irons. I use small irons, large irons, depending on the piece and the finished product that I want to get. I don't usually have a preconceived notion as to what I want. It's kind of morphs while I'm painting, and I'm listening. I always ask for, I believe in God, the universe, my angels. I ask for assistance from them, and I'm kind of listening and just applying the paint. I do go to classes. I do learn the techniques of other painters, and I know inherently how to do it. And it's good to continue your education on that. But I just really like to do the abstract because it's the hardest thing to do. There's no beginning, there's no end. It's all in your head, and you've got to figure it out along the way. So that's what I'm going to work on today. I started one and started laying in some wax on this. It is a black paper. I prefer doing it on the paper. A lot of people will do it on cradled board. I don't get the movement of the wax that I like. So I prefer doing it on the paper and then double matting it and framing it. You have to at least have the glass off of the wax. Encaustic, and it's spelled E-N-C-A-U-S-T-I-C, has been around since 5 AD. It means to burn in Greek. And the ancient columns of the marble in Greece, they believe that they were actually colored at one time with encaustic. It came about the same time when tempera paint was being used in a lot of art forms. But because this is water impervious, it was a much better form to use. More expensive, more time consuming than the tempera, but a better art form for them to use in the long run. It preconceived mosaics, and then when mosaics came along, it kind of lost favor because it's such a tedious way to paint. But I'm going to show you how I start painting. I'm going to pick up my red and start working a little bit more red down in here. And I don't even know which way this painting is going to end up being hung yet, so I'm just going to kind of start working with it. As you see, I've applied the wax to there, and every time I touch it, I have to be cognizant of the wax that's underneath of it, because if I hold it down, it's going to melt and marry the colors, and you don't want it to get murky and dirty. And a lot of colors, when you add them together, you'll end up with brown. So as soon as I lift, though, it's dry. It takes about 30 days for it to actually become as hard. The Damar resin continues to harden. Yellows a little bit, but it's imperceivable to the eye. But it's a really, if you like it, if you buy a piece, you better love it, because you're gonna have it for a really long time because it doesn't go anywhere. When I get done with the piece, I shine it, which is buffing it with a cloth, and it will bring it to a high shine. And then at the end, if I wait 30 days and shine it again, because it will effervesce a little bit, and then once you frame it, it's good to go. To clean the tool, all you have to do, that's it on a paper towel, and you're all clean. Like I said, I could actually be melting this in pan form and painting it on that way, but I just enjoy painting it on with the hot tools. I feel like I have more control over it. They believe that they started with the encaustics by adding pigmentation to the paint, to the wax on warships back in Troy time. So that's the first time that it was mentioned. So yesterday when I was working on this, I started thinking about maybe a poppy field But again, it'll present itself as to what it wants to be. Let's take it a little further along. And it's like with any abstract, sometimes they come together really easily, and sometimes it takes a long time to get it to where the point that you want it to be. Now I'm going to use the larger tool to show you when you lay on with a larger piece of wax and the difference in the look. It's not as controlled. It lays down a lot more paint. It marries the paint more underneath of it. But if I'm using a tool and I'm trying to get depth, I want it to be brighter in the front, more intense color, and then going back so it looks like there's some depth to it. Now, I'm not a fan of getting these marks. I know some people really like them in their paintings. I don't. So I've come up with, I put squiggles on with a hot glue gun and put it underneath of here, and what that does, it seems to keep the edges from hitting. I just figured that out yesterday. Love that. It's starting to show like it looks like flowers in the foreground now. Now if I want to make it look like there's more leaves or stems, I can take the green, run it on the edge, and throw some stems in. Again, I want it very random. Although this is wax, it is so durable. You don't want to hang it over a fireplace, but that's with any piece of fine art. Hang it in direct sunlight. Again, any piece of fine art you don't want to do it in a hot car. It does have to get to about above 160 for it to melt. So it's not going to melt hanging in your house when your house is 85 degrees. I took a piece to a framer one time and she was sick and afraid to turn her heat up. She was afraid the piece was going to melt. I'm like, no, you should have called me. This is coming together pretty well. Now what the paper I paint on, I have to special order it. It's an acid-free painting called Chromolux by Strathmore. It gives a lot of, as you can see, the wax moves fairly easily for me. I'm not fighting with it. I did one on watercolor paper and it sucked right in. I did like how that ended up, but it wasn't the way I like to paint. So it was a little bit of a, okay, I don't know if I'll do that again. Because everybody has to figure out what they like to do and make it theirs. You don't want to ever copy somebody's work. You want to emulate them. Now, to me, this looks like flowers in the bottom. A field of like maybe red poppies, flowers, with a storm coming through in the back, you know, by a cliff or an ocean. So things just kind of, and a lot of times I have faces come up and animals that show up, animals that show up in it, and that's all just a gift. It's not a planned thing. The wax kind of just makes things, which is wonderful. Now when I buff this, the shine on it will even make it look better. I don't know if you want me to do that or not because it might be too shiny for your lights. So, but that's probably the way it's going to go because that's what I'm hearing right now. I think that's the way, and I'm going to probably put some mica running through it, gold leaf, a little bit of that running through here, and some white maybe on that top part to set it off, and I'll be done.